All right, I wanted to also show you guys a shortcut way that you can solve for Pythagorean theorem in your calculators, because I believe this is how the 8th grade teachers teach it in the calculator. So we know that our formula for Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're going to have to add a squared and b squared together and then take the square root of that. If you want to do this in your calculator all in one step, you can do it by taking the square root and then inside the square root, putting your a squared plus b squared. So on this triangle, you can have a and b. So a is 8, we have to square it still, plus b is 15 squared. If you type that all into your calculator at once, that's going to give you your final answer. That answer is going to be 17. So you can find the hypotenuse of the triangle all in one step by putting that in your calculator. Now you have to put it in your calculator in a very particular way, where it is all inside the square root. So if you're not sure how to do that, make sure you ask. Or if you don't want to do it that way, then you can do it how we previously talked about it, where you're actually calculating all the steps. So if we were to look at this next question, we still have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this time, we can take the square root of a squared plus b squared. I just realized this is the same exact example. Let's change these numbers. Let's make that a be a 10 and that 15 be 16. That way it gives us different numbers. So we would put in, let's say 10 is a, 16 is b. 10 squared plus 16 squared, all inside the square root. That way we're doing the exact same steps as we were before. We're still adding together a squared plus b squared and then taking the square root. This just helps us do it all at once. And that will give us a value of c that is approximately 18.9. A way that you can check and make sure that your hypotenuse is a possible example or a possible number is by looking at this strategy. So we just solved for that second example that the hypotenuse was about 18.9. Well, if you're having a right triangle, the hypotenuse has to be the biggest side. So when we compare all three of our sides, we had 16, 10, and 18.9. 18.9 is the largest number, so that works. It has to be the largest side, but it also has to be smaller than the two legs added together. So if we added together our two legs, 16 plus 10, that equals 26. The hypotenuse has to be smaller than that sum, which it is. If we were to check this with the first example, where our hypotenuse was 17, that is larger than either of the two sides, but it is smaller than the sum of those two sides. 15 plus 8 equals 23. That number has to be bigger than the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is the largest side, but it is smaller than the sum of the legs. That's just a way that you can check your work.